After 25 years, I lost everything. You can't blame me for the sales, my husband yelled, but I couldn't think straight after my psychosis. We sold our beloved homes for a loss, and now I face the reality of our crumbling marriage. Can love survive this? First post received 2 replies that were not helpful. This is lengthy. I have been married for 25 years. In 2005, I purchased land and spent 10 years constructing a cottage that I envisioned for retirement. My husband disliked it, despite having summers off to help with mowing the lawn and bringing in the docks, so we sold it in 2016, even though it was my pride and joy. In 2016, I was involved in a serious car accident while my husband was driving, and I was bedridden until 2017 when I underwent surgery. I was taking a significant number of opioids. My husband claims that I blame him for not having the surgery earlier, but I am unsure if that is true because my memory began to deteriorate due to the opioids, and I accepted his word on the matter. In 2019, I requested to discontinue the opioids since my memory was declining, and my doctors prescribed cannabis for anxiety and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I still could not work. I suggested to my husband that we purchase a condominium on the water to replace the cottage, but he declined, stating it would not generate rental income. I then thought perhaps I should engage in rental properties to keep myself occupied. I bought a condominium, then a new construction property, which would not be ready until 2023, and then 2 lots in 2020. In 2020, my husband threatened divorce, and when I requested therapy, he insisted that the issues were all my fault. I proposed moving to a new house due to bad memories in our current one. We were planning to relocate when I decided to leave him and began dating an ex-boyfriend from college. I informed my husband that I planned to move in with him, but my husband chose to remain in our home for the sake of our children, who were finishing university. Unbeknownst to me, I had become manic from cannabis use. I had seen a psychiatrist a couple of months prior who concluded that nothing was wrong with me. I did not date my ex for long, only a month, and then I rented a place. My husband ultimately agreed to marriage counseling. A friend suggested that instead of renting, I should buy a place using her son as my real estate agent. My husband and I also purchased a winter home in Arizona on a golf course for him. My husband and I viewed several properties, and I was becoming increasingly unstable. I yelled at him, insisting he was a jail guard and that I needed to secure a property before the snow arrived. Then, in a moment of clarity, I communicated to him and the real estate agent that we could not afford another home and that I did not want the mortgage broker to have access to our finances, as I wished to avoid breaking a fixed-rate mortgage. I instructed the realtor not to contact me anymore. I stated that we needed to sell our lots and conduct an assignment sale of the new condominium, as I did not want to assume that much debt. 2 weeks later, the realtor persuaded my husband to share our finances with the mortgage broker to explore a variable rate, which was 1.3%, while we were locked in at 2.94%. Then the real estate agent informed my husband that he had buyers for our lots, and my husband advised him to contact me, although he doubted I would agree to sell them. The agent then informed me he had found the ideal home, but offers were due in a day. He claimed he absolutely had buyers for our lots, but they were on vacation. I became delusional again due to cannabis and believed this was a sign from God, indicating that I was meant to have this home to practice magic, despite having never practiced magic before. It was a log home in a remote area on a large piece of land. I gave no consideration to how I would maintain it, given my disabilities. My husband agreed to this sale without questioning the aspect of practicing magic or anything else. He indicated that he felt guilty for making us sell our cottage because I was upset about it. The agent also convinced me it was a no-brainer since the condominiums would pay for themselves along with the log home. It turned out that was a lie about both the condominiums paying for themselves and having buyers for the lots. We ended up selling the lots later with the help of another realtor. I moved into the log home in 2022 and continued to become more unstable. I was abusing cannabis. I was ripping thermostats off the walls because I was convinced my house was going to explode. My husband came on Saturdays to assist me with grocery shopping, and I shared some of my paranoia with him, at which point he became angry and said he could not deal with this any longer. Over the next year, I visited several hospitals, each of which stated that nothing was wrong. Eventually, my sister informed my husband that I might have a brain tumor and urged him to get me help. I was involuntarily committed to a psychiatric ward in July 2023. In January 2023, we closed on the new condominium that I suggested we sell through an assignment sale, and then I asked my husband if we could afford for our son to live there, to which he affirmed. However, that was not the truth. At this point, we owed $1 million in mortgage debt, and our home equity line of credit was maxed out at $350,000. Interest rates had risen from 1.3% to 7%, and I was unaware of this situation as I was detached from reality and all my mail was going to my husband. He did not inform me. After I was released from the hospital and came to understand our financial situation, I promptly put the log home up for rent and then put the new condominium up for sale. The tenant stayed for only 1 month, and we then attempted to rent again but encountered unreliable tenants. I subsequently experienced a complete nervous breakdown and expressed to my husband that I was uncertain what to do since the new condominium was not selling and I was unsure if we needed to sell Arizona. I was unable to think clearly, so I needed him to make decisions. At this point, I could barely speak. My husband asked if he could think about it, and I replied that he absolutely should. That is what I was requesting. I remained paranoid, claiming that Arizona would run out of water. He returned and suggested we consult a realtor in Arizona, which we did. The realtor convinced my husband to sell immediately in November before the snowbirds arrived. I asked my husband to speak with the property manager, whom I dealt with since the property was rented from January to March, but he refused. I disagreed with the realtor's price and commission, but my husband insisted we proceed with his suggestions. Consequently, we sold my beloved retirement home within a day for $75,000 below market value, included all the furniture and belongings at no charge, and a real estate agent purchased it, for which we also paid her commission. Then, we rented it out 3 weeks later for our son to stay there. We subsequently sold our log home at a loss of $130,000. I did not realize we would no longer own these properties, which illustrates how cognitively impaired I was. My husband yelled at me, asking how he was supposed to know that. I inquired why he did not assess our finances, considering Arizona was our most profitable rental at $4,000 monthly. During discussions about divorce, I had stated I would not touch his pension. I would solely rely on the rental income. The other properties barely broke even due to the excessive interest rates. I noted that we had also wanted Arizona for retirement, to spend 6 months of the year there, as it was situated on a golf course for him. I am devastated by this loss, and my psychiatrist, who questioned my husband about why he had not sought help for me over the past 2 years, noting that psychosis can lead to permanent brain damage, stated I lacked the capacity to consent. I sought to challenge the sales legally, but I was informed that since my husband signed, it is presumed he explained everything to me. I am now deeply depressed as everything I have worked for in life is gone, my cottage in Arizona. Had we retained the cottage, its value would have tripled during COVID. Arizona would likely have been worth close to $1 million in rental income over the next 20 years. It was also fully paid for. I acquired it at an excellent price and exchange rate. Additionally, its rent would have covered the mortgage on the log home. I constantly ruminate about this loss, feeling as though my life's purpose has vanished and that we have squandered our wealth and generational wealth. My husband claims he can no longer live like this, as he is miserable with me because I ruminate and blame him for the properties. I have attended therapy for 6 months and am on antidepressants, but they are not effective. My husband states he no longer trusts me, and when I ask why, he initially cites fidelity, accusing me of having relationships with 2 men I previously worked with, which I did not. He then claims it is because he thinks I am using him for his inheritance, though our properties would have generated more than his inheritance. Next, he argues that we have differing values, with him prioritizing family and me focusing on finances. I have been a very good mother. He further suggests that I am incapable of moving forward, to which I respond that I was the one planning our retirement, and I have been set back by 20 years due to the sale of our properties. Then he claims I blame him for everything, prompting me to ask ChatGPT if I am overreacting and to help me articulate my feelings without accusing my husband. I inform my husband that I cannot prevent him from divorcing me, and he states that he is still considering it. I love my husband, and I also rely on him due to my disabilities. During my psychosis, I became estranged from all my friends and family friends I have had for 45 years and my sisters as I was unstable. I now depend solely on my husband and our children. I feel remorseful and ashamed of my behavior, grateful that my husband took me back, yet resentful that he did not safeguard our family's wealth. I believe our financial security has been ripped away from us, and I know much of it was my fault. However, I did have moments of clarity during which I emphasized not taking on debt or switching to a variable rate. Then I lost my mind and relinquished control over decisions. I was also aware that I was not thinking clearly and requested my husband's help, telling him I could not think. I was the one who proposed selling Arizona because of incessant paranoia and believing that our new construction would never sell and that Arizona would run out of water. Both absurd ideas. We merely needed to reduce the price of the new construction. My husband asks how he was supposed to know I could not think, to which I reply that I had just been discharged from a psychiatric ward a couple of months earlier, was unable to speak, and had communicated my inability to make decisions. He then asserts that being around me leads him to make poor decisions and wonders if my paranoia is rubbing off on him. I tell my husband that all he needed to do was calm me down and slow the process since Arizona was rented out. There was no urgency. He could have waited until my mind healed, consulted our financial advisor, or spoken with others. My husband informs me that after the sales, he was unaware of what Zillow or Redfin were, which frustrates me even further. If he lacked knowledge about properties, he should have told me to find someone else to make decisions on my behalf, as I might as well have had dementia. I feel utterly devastated and broken. I wake up feeling ill every day and struggle to accomplish anything. I have lost my life's work and wealth, and I do not wish to lose my husband as well, though I understand he deserves to be happy. I simply cannot move on from everything that has happened. Does anyone have any good advice on what I should do? Thank you for reading all of this. Story 2. After 13 years with my fiancé, I finally said, no one should have to tolerate anything. That moment gave me courage, but now I'm emotionally wrecked. I loved him, but I can't shake the guilt as I remember him saying, "You're too sensitive." What happens now? That is it. I had been with the same person since I was 15 or 16 years old, and on Friday, it came to an end. I texted him to ask if it was acceptable for me to go for a motorcycle ride with a group of friends the following day, and he said it was fine. I simply requested that he not stay too late at my place because I needed to go to sleep early, and he usually stays up late or lies in bed on his phone. He came over, we watched television, and at around 9:30 p.m., half an hour before the time we had agreed he would leave, he expressed a desire to talk. I felt a bit upset because I knew the conversation would not be brief, but I agreed to listen. He said I had been distant for some time and that he felt anxious about seeing me, but also anxious when he actually did see me. He mentioned that I did not communicate much with him over text and did not share my life with him. I acknowledged that I had been more distant and explained that we were both experiencing a rough patch, something we had discussed before. I explained that it was natural for things to take time, and to add to that, a lot had occurred in my life over the past 2 months, and I genuinely needed more time alone to take care of myself and my responsibilities. During the conversation, we began to address past issues that I still held resentment about, things I had asked him about numerous times, but he had not listened to, and now all of a sudden he was the one asking for. He then mentioned that he had also tolerated certain things about me, even if he never verbalized them. That was a turning point for me. It gave me the courage I had been seeking, and I said that no one should have to tolerate anything from anyone and requested to end the relationship. He argued that I was making a mistake and that the breakup was a unilateral decision. He insisted on repeating that several times, and now I feel terrible not only because the relationship ended with a person whom I still love and care about, but also due to the guilt I am feeling. His belongings remain in my home. We have not spoken since then. I am uncertain of how to proceed from here. For context, he was never an emotionally connected partner, and several times I felt we were more friends than a couple. We experienced our ups and downs like any couple, but therapy helped me understand how all of this affected my personality and beliefs, as I began the relationship at such a young age, and he played a significant role in my personal development. At the inception of the relationship, about 2 years in, I discovered conversations between him and a friend where they spoke in a really distasteful manner about a girl from school, someone in his social circle. The dialogue was intense and suggested that he would like to hook up with her. We nearly broke up, but he pleaded in every way possible, claiming it was just teenage nonsense and that he had been influenced by those conversations. We continued with the relationship. Following that incident, I became very jealous and anxious whenever he went out only with friends. It was a difficult phase, but gradually, over the years, I managed to overcome it and rebuild my trust in him. During our time in college together, he was not fond of holding my hand, stating that his hands became sweaty. I insisted, cried, and confronted him, but nothing worked. He said he would not change his behavior. At that time, there were people who commented that they did not even know we were a couple until they asked me. As far as I can recall, he was not very affectionate physically. Although he helped through acts of service, the absence of genuine touch, hugs, caresses, and spontaneous gestures always impacted me, leading to requests, complaints, and arguments. I also longed for emotional presence. There was a lack of curiosity and interest in my desires, activities, or what I found important. For example, regarding an aesthetic procedure I underwent, which was the best decision I ever made for myself and significantly boosted my self-esteem in an indescribable way, he was not involved at all. He did not inquire about which doctor I chose, how the procedure would unfold, and he did not accompany me to any appointments because he disagreed with my decision to undergo it, claiming that I did not need it in his opinion. The same was true for my therapy, which I postponed for an extended period because he told me that I would be wasting my money. Over the years, I have heard statements such as, "You are too sensitive, you are exaggerating, it was just a joke. I already apologized. If you did not accept it, the problem is yours. The day was so good and you had to ruin it by bringing this up. You ask for too much, you demand too much. I am not going to apologize for something I don't think I am wrong about. What do you want? An apology. Okay, an apology, and do you know what your problem is? You." Some of these were disguised as jokes, followed by "you are too sensitive." In the last 2 years, things have improved, but some of these phrases still resonate within me even today. We had been living a quiet life for many years. He would come to my house on weekends, we would watch television, eat at home, sometimes play games, and repeat this cycle. Many times we would sit on opposite sides of the couch, each on our phones. When I would lie on his lap, after a few minutes he would say his leg was numb. I would get up, and he would not propose any alternative. We would simply return to sitting side by side, again without any physical interaction, at least until the moment he wanted to have sexual relations. I do not have any friends, so after a while in therapy I realized that this was an issue and began seeking groups of women who enjoy riding motorcycles like me. However, this always seemed to disturb him in some manner. I attempted to share by sending messages about it, but he showed no curiosity, acted as if I had not gone out, and never asked how it went. Whenever I went out with the group, I would feel anxious because I suffered in anticipation, thinking that when I returned he would be cold or would do something as punishment. Going out without informing me, saying his battery died, or going out with me and excluding me, not treating me well or holding my hand, claiming it was to avoid making friends uncomfortable. There are numerous other issues that have shaped my experiences and built up within me over these years, matters that do not even fit here. I am sure there were issues for him as well. But while I asked, spoke, communicated, and argued, he never addressed anything. Apparently he simply tolerated it. Therefore, I cannot progress much in this reflection. In December, something transpired that deeply hurt me. I communicated this to him and I believe he noticed my change. I would say that from that moment on he changed significantly. He had been transforming over the last year, but the changes became drastic from that point. However, I think the switch in me also flipped, but in the opposite direction. It became increasingly challenging to be the passionate and dependent woman I once was. Therapy has been assisting me in connecting with other activities outside of the relationship and reconnecting with my true desires. In the last 2 months, many negative events unfolded one after the other. My parents had their car stolen, my phone was snatched while I was leaving an exam, I broke my finger, I experienced work overload, I fell ill and incurred significant health expenses. My cat also became sick, adding to the financial burden. Moreover, my niece was diagnosed with a chronic and relatively severe eye condition, among other things. All of this occurred within a short period of time, one incident after another. My family tends to seek my financial support and vent to me, but they are not emotionally accessible. On the day my phone was stolen, I had to contact banks, my phone provider, block emails, and change passwords. And during that time, my fiancé, now ex, and my niece were nearby, making noise and laughing loudly, while I was trying to resolve everything still shaken up. I had to request that they move to another room. Lately, the only support I felt from him was financial, and that began to frustrate me. Suddenly, he started offering me money to assist with my matters as if that would resolve all my problems and our issues. And no, I do not earn a low income and he does not earn more than I do. But simultaneously, he showed no empathy or curiosity regarding how I felt. He never asked about my feelings, and this has not changed. Thus, I was somewhat managing this emotional burden on my own and in therapy, which is why I believe I have been more distant in recent months. Additionally, regarding texting, for many years I requested that he communicate with me more during the week when we were not physically together, and he always said, "I prefer to speak to you in person. I do not like texting," and I had to accept that. Now that he perceives me as distant, witnessing his friends getting married and being in romantic relationships, he expresses a desire for a partnership. However, then suddenly, he expects me to do something that he has always kept me from pursuing, claiming that he did not like it himself. He stated that he changed, which is fine, but I still hold resentment, and even more now because it seems that while I was the one who recognized it as important, he was not willing to change. I am writing all of this while crying, with my rational side prevailing over my emotional side, attempting to remember why it ended. But I recall so many beautiful moments. I love him, and I think about how difficult it will be without him by my side, and most importantly, I feel guilt, so much guilt, that fills my chest as if it is going to explode. I sincerely apologize for this lengthy text and for the poor writing. I just needed to share some of this. A story 3. Ignored for 6 months by my best friends, I spotted a group chat named after my face, complete with my awkward blink and a picture of me passed out. "Why are you still hanging out with us? We all hate you." they yelled while I Ubered home, wondering how to survive until graduation. My title is somewhat simplified. However, I am going to inform you that this is a lengthy read as there is a significant amount of detail. For context, I am a senior in high school, and my friends have completely ignored or severed ties with me for the past 6 months or so. I do not really care about them specifically, as I only have about 2 months left with them until graduation, but I want to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. I have been genuinely good friends with these individuals for approximately 3 years. I invited a couple of them into the group and have taken others on trips. However, I tend to avoid conflict or arguments by dismissing them with laughter, which might not be the best approach. To start, around the end of last year, my friends and I had a small party or get-together. Toward the end, we went for a walk around the neighborhood. I was not in the right frame of mind, if you understand what I mean, and neither were the others. One of these individuals, who I had known my entire life and was practically best friends with, began talking negatively about me and my family. He said some really inappropriate things and then called me a coward when I refused to fight him. I explained that I did not want to because he was my friend, but he came up and pushed me. I pushed him back, he punched me, and then I returned the punch. I immediately called an Uber and left. A few weeks later, I unfortunately lost a game. I will not disclose what it was, because if these individuals see this, it will be obvious it is me, and had to endure a punishment that the winners decided. They assigned me something that would reflect very poorly on me and could potentially prevent my future college from accepting me. I declined and requested a less severe punishment, preferably one that would not affect me in the future. They told me to stop being a coward and to accept the punishment. They also decided I could not attend any hangouts or parties until I completed my punishment. I assumed they were joking. However, I was not invited anywhere for 3 months. When I attempted to reach out online, I was left on read, ignored, or responded to with hostility, being told that I had to complete my impossible punishment. They would not even speak to me at school without mentioning this, and I began to notice that they would not talk to me in person either. This situation upset me greatly. Although I have other friends, no one really does anything outside of school. It is just this group, so I feel somewhat trapped with them. At one point, I struggled to sleep worrying about this situation, whether it would resolve, and more importantly, being completely ignored by individuals I had considered my best friends just a couple of months earlier. There were several occasions when I learned about a get-together or party, asked to attend, and was denied. 2 girls in the group felt sorry for me and tried to get me invited, but these guys would not yield, even stating things like, "We figured you wouldn't want him here." Eventually, I got invited to a party organized by one of these girls, and after that, things seemed to lighten up. I received invitations to events, even if I had to learn of plans by listening to them discuss it or by reaching out after the gathering had already begun. At one of these parties, my friend opened his phone and I saw a group chat notification from a group chat titled with my name. Everyone was in it, the entire group, both guys and girls. I was quite devastated. I did not reveal that I was aware of this, but over the next week or so, I noticed people were messaging in it. We had a group chat previously with the same people, but it had become inactive since I stopped being invited to things. Over the past couple of weeks since noticing this, I have observed several things. They all communicate in this group chat, which is why I never hear about anything, and more frustratingly, the background photo of this group chat is an unflattering picture of my face, taken while I was caught blinking and turning my head. Long story short, it was not a good look. Then yesterday, when we gathered together, I noticed that the photo had been changed to one of me passed out on a couch. Returning to the narrative, everything was as smooth as it could be until a couple of weeks ago. I went to our usual hangout spot, the house of a good friend who invited me over, as he is part of this group and is probably the only one who has not treated me poorly. We were just messing around. Around midnight, we were all quite inebriated and seated on the couch when one of these guys stood up in front of us and began yelling at me. The individual who punched me earlier also joined in. He said things like, "Why do you hang out with us? We all hate you. And why do you keep coming back when you just get bullied?" He then went on about how I had been excluded and stuff, however I do not recall the rest of it clearly. He ended up slapping me and saying other hurtful things. I took an Uber home, recorded what I remembered from that night so I would not forget, and went to bed, but not without messaging him to ask why he was an unpleasant person to me that night. I wanted to give him a chance to apologize, but I woke up to a message stating, "I don't remember what happened, but what I said was the truth." This individual was my best friend for about 3 years. We got along well and had pretty much never had any issues prior to this. One of the other guys filmed the entire incident and sent it to their group chat. One of the girls replied with laughter, asking what I had done to provoke him, as if I had instigated the whole situation and it was a regular occurrence. I know this because the person next to me was on his phone and I saw the group chat. Regarding his statement, I do not really feel bullied by these guys. Sure, I have been left out before, but now I mostly attend everything even if I am not involved in the planning. In person, we get along fine. It feels somewhat strange over the past few months, at least from my perspective, but I try to ignore it. There have been times when I show up and one of the girls says something like, "Oh, my name, you came too," or "Oh, I didn't know you were coming." We never argue or have any issues unless someone has had too much to drink. They always seem happy to see me when I arrive at places. At school, we acknowledge each other in the hallways. I stopped sitting with them at lunch back in January. Now, with the school year nearing its end, my friendship with all of them is also coming to an end. I thought I would ask around about the group chat and see what it was about. I spoke to a good friend of mine, someone I have known my entire life who has also not participated in this situation but has been passively involved. I trust this person, and he is one of the two individuals in this whole group that I intend to keep in touch with after high school. He said he had no knowledge of the group chat and stated that it does not exist, suggesting they would not do that to me and that I am overthinking things. I asked another guy and he also claimed to be unaware of it, saying that it does not exist and that there would be no reason for it to. Two other people expressed the same sentiment. I know these individuals are all in this together. I just want to understand why I am not included and what goes on in that chat. That last part happened last night. I seek advice on how to endure this situation. I have not wronged anyone in this group. I drive them around when they are unable to drive, I engage with them at school, and I used to check in on them. Currently, I despise this situation. It feels strange to know they have a group chat without me with my name in the title. Do they feel remorse? They must realize that I am aware of this by now. I feel as if these people do not take me seriously, which leaves me feeling very bitter. I have about 2 months remaining with these individuals. I would appreciate advice on how to manage these last months. It feels peculiar to be around people who engage in activities without me. I have to essentially pretend to be friends with these guys, which I cannot tolerate. However, outside of this group, nothing is happening. No one else is doing anything. I am somewhat of an extrovert, so I require company. Interactions have been fine in person, as I mentioned, but I just feel uncomfortable. If I attempt to address the issues by individually asking about how to mend my apparent problems with the group or what I did to cause this, they simply shut down or respond by saying they are unsure what the problem is or that they do not notice any issue. Since someone will likely suggest I stop spending time with these people, I genuinely cannot. Some of my best friends are in this group, so I am unable to leave. I have also invested 4 years into these individuals. Additionally, no one outside of this group does anything. I would just be confined to my home. Recently, this situation has significantly impacted my self-esteem. I am beginning to doubt myself and overanalyze everything I do in social situations to determine if I am being strange. I worry about my future in college, if this pattern will repeat. I truly need advice on how to navigate the next few months. How do I get along with this group? How do I ignore the fact that they seem to have issues with me? I never did anything to these individuals, and when I inquire about what happened, they dismiss it as if they do not know either. I do not want this occurring again in college, but that is all I can think about at the moment. I apologize for venting, I just genuinely need help here. Thank you if you have read all of this. In summary, my friends have been treating me poorly for the past 5 months, and I am uncertain how to proceed and make amends with them. Story 4. After years of being a doormat, I discovered the truth during my wedding chaos. He said, "You need to show some backbone," just as he beat me down emotionally. When I pleaded for my family's support, I was left alone to carry my own suitcase while he entertained guests. How much longer can I endure this? This is my equivalent of shouting into the void and hoping someone will listen. I had been in a relationship, primarily long distance, with my then boyfriend, now husband, for at least 7 years. Pre-marriage era and marriage talks. There was some pressure to get married from my parents, and my husband insisted on informing my parents. I had hinted at it, but in Indian societies, being openly in a relationship is generally frowned upon. I had cautioned him that matters would progress rapidly as soon as parents became involved, but he insisted. As predicted, my parents wanted to speak with his mother as soon as possible. He resisted. He wanted me to assert myself and tell my parents not to pester me. He had no clear plans moving forward. For me, it felt like a bait-and switch. He kept telling me that he had informed his mother and that she had no inclination to talk to me or my parents. I mean, why would she? In a strictly patriarchal society, she probably thought she needed to maintain her dignity. When I kept requesting his mother's phone number, he kept stalling. It escalated to the point where he insulted my mother, which resulted in him physically assaulting me. In hindsight, that should have been the first red flag. He tried to act as if nothing significant had changed, but discussions about marriage continued. He agreed to provide her number but warned that she would be busy with her job. Finally, they talked and we decided to meet up. My father, due to health issues, could not fly out of my hometown. He was recovering from a major illness around the time of COVID-19. My husband said he understood, and we devised an elaborate plan for his mother to come over to meet all of us. My mother repeatedly requested that I come a few days early so that we could clean our place. After my father's illness, the house had fallen into disrepair for lack of a better term. He insisted that I travel with them to my place so that his mother could get to know me better. He asserted that this was the right thing to do. He often has a habit of presenting opinions as facts. Anyway, marriage discussions took place, and he and his mother took offense to many things that were not offensive. They passed judgment frequently. His mother specifically mentioned the lack of etiquette. Since we come from a lower to middle-class family, I assumed this was true. Perhaps we did lack etiquette. I felt self-conscious and accepted this assumption. In hindsight, it was another instance where this family presented their opinions as facts. His mother has rules and opinions about how a guest and a host should behave. She goes overboard with her performance as a host, which feels unnatural. One of her opinions is that helpers should not show their faces in front of guests. They should remain confined to their rooms. Domestic helpers should eat only after the hosts have eaten, regardless of how long it takes. Additionally, she needs to be praised for her hosting skills. Gold and wedding card fiasco. My husband and I had decided that we would cover all the costs, split evenly down the middle. I reiterated this to my family. We decided we would proceed with only one card. I communicated this to my family. The day before the wedding, I suddenly received a message from my husband stating that his family, excluding him, was coming to meet us. I had no idea why. He had no idea why either. Apparently, his mother expected us to exchange cards. Why? This was another ritual that nobody was aware of. I learned about it later, 2 years later. She made sarcastic comments about how disappointed she was doing this twice. No matter how much I explained, it was futile. We were deemed lacking in etiquette. We didn't even have a card to present. Where was my husband, supporting his mother, claiming that we had no manners? Everything else was conveniently forgotten. Now, regarding the financial aspect, I purchased all of the gold. My family provided me with some gold heirlooms, both old and new. Suddenly, my husband began demanding to know why my father was so stingy and did not pay for anything. He was upset about the fact that I wanted to purchase their flight tickets. Growing up, we were so poor that staying in a 5-star luxury resort was a dream, and his city is a beautiful place. I wanted a vacation for all of us to remember. I was happy and I wanted to celebrate with them. He was very particular about not inviting anyone from my friends, claiming he had no friends who would come. He did not understand that I had no one coming from my extended family. I wanted my friends around me. In hindsight, that was the second red flag. He got his way. His father's old colleagues showed up, but my friends could not. His mother acted as though she had paid for everything. I had transferred a significant amount of money to my husband already, but it was never acknowledged. Day of marriage and post-marriage fiasco. My family was stranded at the hotel when the driver left. My husband insisted on not using Uber, and my family could not reach the reception on time. His mother taunted me 2 years later about how her perfect day was ruined. I was extremely exhausted after my family departed. Everyone left me alone. There was no conversation. I was left to find my way to the bedroom by myself to take a bath. My husband did not even help with my suitcase upstairs initially. He called me dramatic when I began carrying it upstairs. He wanted me to open my suitcase and gather my toiletries in the hall downstairs. I had no towel and I broke down so badly. I felt utterly alone. Have you ever felt completely alone in a crowd? I didn't dare open the cupboards. They were stuffed with his mother's clothes anyway, as I later discovered. He told me that he wanted to spend time with his family as a way to thank them for arranging everything. He did not want to be the guy who leaves the family the moment he gets married. Things worsened the next day. He made me pack his sister's bags as she was slow to organize herself. I did as he asked, even though I did not want to. I genuinely wanted to go to a cafe, but in my naivete, I thought I was being helpful. I assumed people would appreciate me if I did this for them. Later, I accidentally discovered text messages in which his sister was asking him to make me stop packing and folding for her repeatedly. I felt so embarrassed and hurt. I was a complete nuisance. Later, he proposed that his mother and sister accompany us on our first outing together. He lied to them, claiming that I had agreed. I overheard all of this from the adjoining room. He made a show of asking me, and I told him never to do this again, asking for my opinion or permission when it did not matter. He had already made the decision. We had a great family trip together along with the dog. It was yet another way to show gratitude to them. I was asked to communicate how thankful my family was, which I did because my family was genuinely happy with all the arrangements. Now the unfortunate turn of events. My mother fell seriously ill after my marriage. She was so unwell that she could not dress herself. His mother created a fuss, claiming that my family had not called her. You know how courtesy works in her mind based on her opinions about etiquette. She required a call from my extremely sick mother, as that was apparently the norm. A week after the wedding, my husband's grandmother passed away. Guess what? I informed my mother so that she could call to offer condolences, even while she was extremely unwell herself. My mother-in-law did not appreciate it. She complained to my husband that I was divulging family secrets in a matter of minutes. Oh my God, my husband claims that he took my side for once, but he asked me to consult him before making such decisions.